Welcome to the virtual college exploration for all North and South Carolina students presented by the Carolinas Association of Collegiate Registrars and Admissions Officers and StriveScan. We appreciate y'all joining us today. A few housekeeping announcements before I turn it over to our presenters. You can use the Q&A button to type your, on your screen to type your questions to the presenters at any time. Your camera and microphone are off so the presenters cannot see or hear you. This is just one of many different sessions that will be going on for the next several weeks, so please visit the full schedule at CACRAO.org. That's CACRAO.org. This presentation is being recorded and will be made available at the same website, CACRAO.org. I'd now like to turn it over to our presenters.
All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for taking time out this morning to learn more about UNC Wilmington. My name is Allison Orman, and I'm a first-year admissions coordinator at UNCW. Right now, I primarily recruit students from the Piedmont region of North Carolina. This morning, I'm joined by three of my colleagues. During our time together, we want to share more information about the opportunities and experiences possible for you at UNCW. We'll share more information about life in the classroom, life on campus, the application process, as well as the many ways you can explore UNCW during this time. We hope this information will be helpful to you no matter where you are in your college search journey or your familiarity with UNCW. After we conclude our presentation, we'll have plenty of time at the end for Q&A. Feel free to use the Q&A feature at the bottom if you think of any questions throughout the presentation, but know we'll address them at the end. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues so they can introduce themselves and we can get started.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Maya Robles, and I'm a first-year admissions counselor and Spanish-speaking representative for the UNCW Office of Admissions. I currently oversee Eastern North Carolina, so like Pitt, Lenoir, Wayne, Craven County, and Southeast, Southwest United States, from Arizona to Florida.
Awesome. Good morning, everybody. My name is Paul Willabortza. I'm also one of the first-year admission coordinators here on the admissions team. I predominantly am responsible for northern part of North Carolina, so everything above Wake County, as well as Orange and Durham counties as well. So happy to be here and to answer all your questions today.
Hey everybody, my name is Letitia Rivera and I'm also a first-year admissions coordinator here, and I am focusing on the South Central region of North Carolina.
All right, so as we begin, let's talk a little bit about UNCW. So UNCW is centrally located in Wilmington, just 5 miles from Wrightsville Beach in the historic downtown area. We have nearly 18,000 students and nearly 15,000 students in undergraduate and over 3,000 graduate students. There are 56 academic and student service buildings situated on our 660 acres of land. Currently, right now, we have some additional buildings that are currently in construction. So UNCW offers nearly 60 bachelor's degrees, with these just being the most popular. Again, these are not just what we have offered at UNCW. So we have biology, business. At the business, we do have the Cameron Executive Network Mentoring Program, where the Cameron School of Business students are paired up with experienced executives from around the world, in which they help students prepare for their resumes, interviews, networking skills, just so they can be successful in their career. We also have communication studies, film studies. I always like to talk about it just because this is known as the East Side of Hollywood, also known as Wilmingwood. A lot of our students get exposed to put their short films or documentaries in local and international film festivals. Also, fun fact, we're currently under construction for our new film studies building as well. We also have marine biology, the fact that we're just 5 miles from the East Coast. We do have a Center for Marine Science where students will have the opportunity to do research, outreach and service and teaching. We have students who actually do research with sea turtles and are involved in our marine mammals training program. Then we also have nursing, psychology, and social work. And UNCW has the #1 transfer graduation rate and the #3 graduation rate for our first year students among the UNC system schools. The fact that we are very student oriented and focused Our student to faculty ratio is 18:1, and teaching is our faculty number one's priority. So none of our students, none of our classes are taught by TAs. The average class size is 27 students, so you are guaranteed a personal experience. All UNCW students have the opportunity to engage in applied learning, as I spoke previously with our marine biology, nursing, which involves research, discovery, study abroad. Students will have the opportunity to study abroad for 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, maybe 2 years with the Cameron School of Business, and service learning. Our education abroad offers over 1,000 programs in over 60 different countries. And our applied learning also gives students the tools necessary to transition after college. Many of our students secure internships that lead to opportunities after graduation. 75% of our UNCW graduates work full-time after graduation, and while 14% decide to attend graduate school full-time.
Okay, thank you so much, Myra. So we hope that gives you a little bit of an introduction to the university. We have tons of other webinars and virtual content on our website. If you have more questions about the majors Myra discussed or any of our campus life activities, we encourage you to check those out. So now I'm going to transition a little bit into our application process. We're presuming that many of folks on the call today are potentially seniors and going through the application process now, or juniors and will be not before too long. And when you apply to UNCW, what we start with in the application process is making sure that you meet our minimum course requirements. Now, as a UNC school, we have to see that you've completed these courses by the time that you graduate high school, as will all of our sister schools here in North Carolina. All right. Now, if you attend a traditional public high school in either North Carolina or South Carolina, it is likely that your graduation requirements will meet these courses here. But it's important just to check as you get your application ready that you have all of these courses completed or will have them completed by the time that you graduate high school. The two sections that we see students mixed up on the most is our math and our foreign language section. For math, we need to see 4 full units of math throughout your 4 years, one which is at the Algebra 2 level, and then one that is a higher level math with Algebra 2 as a prerequisite. So if you've taken a course such as pre-calculus or calculus, statistics, AFM, any of those courses will count as that higher level math. And you can always check our website if you have a question on which math will count or not. In terms of foreign language, you can see here we need 2 units of foreign language, and they need to be consecutive units of the same foreign language. So Spanish 1, Spanish 2, French 1, French 2. As long as you have those 2 units, you've met our minimum course requirement, but keep in mind this is just minimum. We have lots of students that will take 3, 4 years of a foreign language, or maybe have multiple foreign languages. That's great, and will only make your application more competitive, but in order to be qualified for admission, we have to see these courses here on the screen. Once we see you've met our MCR, we'll move on to the bulk of our admission criteria on our next slide here. And I'd like to say up front, we use a lot of different items in our application review, so it ends up being a very holistic and comprehensive process, all right? But when we are evaluating that transcript for the MCR, we'll go ahead and look at your other academic elements on your transcript as well. So your grades, your GPA, and your class rank if your high school does rank you amongst your class, all right? The number in the black bold here on the slide is our last year's 50 percentile averages. So last year, of all students who applied to UNCW and were admitted, 50% of those accepted students had a GPA weighted of a 3.9 to a 4.4. Okay, so 25% were above those ranges, 25% were below. In general, this hopefully gives you an idea of where you might fall amongst our competitive applicants for UNCW. Now, that being said, the weighted GPA is not the only thing that we will look at for your application review, as well as not the only thing we'll look at amongst the transcript itself, okay? We're also going to be looking at the curriculum that you've completed, the rigorous courses that you've had access to, whether that be honors courses, AP courses, dual enrolled courses, as well as the schedule strength and the schedule trend. So if you've been taking a lot of those classes your junior and senior year, we love to see that as you continue to push yourself, as well as continuing to do well in those classes. We like to see a lot of your A's and good grades coming from those rigorous courses, all right? So keep that in mind. Those are all factors that we'll consider in going into your transcript review. It will not just be that one weighted GPA number. Another thing that we like to touch on too is that we always evaluate you within the confines of your own high school. All right, so maybe you attend a high school here in North Carolina that only has 4 or 5 AP courses offered. and you're taking 3 or 4 of them. That's great. You're almost taking the max amount of credit that your high school can offer you, right? We will not be comparing you to another student from a different school who has access to 25 APs, and they may have, 15 courses that they've completed. So just keep that in mind, is that we're never necessarily comparing student to student from outside institutions, but rather we want to see a student that is maximizing their curriculum and have challenged his or herself throughout their 4 years in high school. All right. Another important part of our academic curriculum is our standardized tests. And I'll say historically has been a part of our standardized tests because for the upcoming year, we will not require their standardized tests as part of our application. If you look on the right here, we are allowing this test to be optional. So if you have a score and you've already completed a test, you are more than welcome to submit that, but it will not be a required element on our application. Again, we've listed our middle 50th percentiles from last year for our accepted applicants, but these by no means, like I say, are a requirement for our upcoming application term. If you've submitted a test, we say if you have scores that are close to these ranges or above these ranges, we would go ahead and recommend you send that in. It's only going to help you on your application review, but no score will be used to negatively impact your application review. So if you do have a score and you have questions regarding whether or not you should send that in, you're more than welcome to contact our admissions team and we can give you some more advice. But in general, we'd say if you're close to our ranges or above our ranges, we'd recommend go ahead and sending that in. All right. Once we've completed these 2 items, we move on to the rest of our admission criteria. And whereas on the previous slide, we had the optional essay and the standardized tests that were optional, we'll now be evaluating a lot more of your academic writing capabilities, at least within our essay and our short answer. All right. And so you'll have 2 essays that you complete on your application, the long essay and the short answer. For the long essay, we use prompts directly from the Common App prompt, Common App website. And these prompts are generally relatively broad. They might ask you, tell us about yourself. How have you grown throughout high school? Tell us about a hardship you've endured and how you grew from that as a person. All right. And we expect you to use the skeleton of these essays at multiple universities. So if you apply to us and NC State, USC, UNC Charlotte, you can use all of those application essays, at least the bulk majority of that essay, for the same, all of your applications. Where we'll ask that you put in a little bit more of the personalized effort is in our short answer question, all right? That question we limit to 250 words max, and that question stays the same every year. It's why UNCW? Why do you want to come here as opposed to another school on your application list, okay? All of us here are either alumni or currently working on a program here at UNCW, so we're very passionate about UNCW. And I would say that many of my colleagues here probably read this item first when they open up an application, including myself. So this is a great first way to demonstrate your interest for the university. We love seeing personal connections to the university, talking about if you have a family member that attended here, maybe you came for a tour and you had a really great experience on campus. Alternatively, maybe if you haven't gotten on campus, you've done some research about a program and you know that we have a really great film studies program or marine biology program like Myra talked about. Or potentially you went on our website and explored that we have a really cool club that you want to be a part of. Those are all great ways that demonstrate that interest and can already show us that you are interested in UNCW for more than just applying just to apply. Okay, so keep that in mind. That short answer can be a really strong element of you being able to take your application to the next level. My last 2 things here on the screen hopefully are relatively self-explanatory. Extracurricular activities. This is a really important section as well. We like to see anything and everything that you all are involved in outside of your classes. Okay, and this does not only mean things that are attributed to your high school, but it could be, outside musical interests, outside sports. Maybe you have a part-time job that you work 20, 30 hours a week and you can't do much else. That's a huge extracurricular activity. We'd love to hear about that. Or a family responsibility. All of these things give us a great insight into you as a person and things that you might want to continue with if you come to UNC Wilmington. So please make sure you're taking the time to fill this section out in full detail. We'll ask you about the name and the description, but also the hours that you put in. If this is an activity that takes 15 hours of work a week, that's a huge commitment and we'd love to hear a little bit more about that activity, okay? And finally, letter of recommendation. We'll have plenty of opportunities for you to submit a letter of recommendation where in this upcoming application year with the standardized test being optional, a lot of us are encouraging that you do indeed submit a letter of recommendation even though it's optional. This just gives us another perspective to evaluate you at. We generally prefer if you send that from a teacher or a counselor, someone within your high school, but if you have someone in your community that you work with very closely, potentially, let's say someone from a community organization like a church, or you work at a local food bank or something like that, you can also submit one of those as well. Our only little caveat there is we want you to make sure you're giving your recommender plenty of time to submit a strong essay, okay? For any seniors in the call, we'll talk about deadlines here in a second, but November 1st is coming up. Make sure you're giving your recommender at least 3 or 4 weeks to submit that letter. The more time you give them, the stronger the letter generally will be. All right, so keep that in mind. And like I say, all of these items are important items on your application review, and we'll use them holistically and collectively as we evaluate any single applicant.
Okay, hello everybody. It's my turn to talk about some stuff now. So I'm going to talk about our deadlines. So like Paul just said, we're going to have early action is coming up here very shortly. It's going to be November 1st. And you'll receive your notification of acceptance or denial by January 20th. And the benefit of that is early action is you will get your award notification before our scholarship deadline. And our scholarship deadline is going to be March 1st because our scholarship office and our office, the admissions office, is separate. So if financial aid, scholarships, and grants are going to be an important part of your ability to attend UNCW, I highly suggest you apply early action. And as you can see in the parentheses, it's non-binding. So what that means is if you get offered acceptance during that time, you are not bound to coming to UNCW. Some other institution may have early decision, which is a binding contract, but we do not, because we know you all are 17, 18 years old. We want to give you a little bit more flexibility with that. And if financial aid and scholarship is not as important to you and your family's ability to come to UNCW, regular decision is for you. And that's going to be February 1st, and you will be getting your award notification by March 15th, which once again is after our scholarship deadline. And you can apply through the Common Application this year or the College Foundation of North Carolina. We do not have a preference for either way, whichever is easiest for you. It'll come over to us the same. So next, every year we get about 14,000 plus applications to UNCW. So you are definitely applying to a school that a lot of students want to go to. And we're proud to say that we have so many students interested in us. So how that breaks down is we typically offer acceptance, and our fall class is going to be about 2,300 freshmen in the fall, and it's going to be about 170 for our spring semester. So as you can see, even if you apply in the fall, you may get accepted into the spring semester start date. So keep in mind that may be a decision made on your application. And these are based on our current class who's on campus right now. So we have a lot of virtual opportunities, as just like any other institution you may be hearing from, we are trying to adapt to COVID-19 and this whole new landscape that we're in. So we have options of our virtual tours. You can do a virtual tour of our campus. It talks to you. It tells you about different buildings. You can do it of our residence halls as well. We have virtual information sessions, which you can see the link on the screen. And these are going to be from mouths of our current students. Different academic programs, financial aid, another overview like this that's already being pre-recorded. So you have a lot of different options to get information. And the biggest one we're most excited about is going to be our virtual open house that is coming up here very shortly. It's going to be October 1st through the 3rd, and there will be virtual sessions that are pre-recorded and live Q&A sessions on all the topics you can think of: financial aid, early college students, first gen, a lot of different options for you all. And then you can also get linked to our listserv. So that is going to be our C-level count. There you can get notifications if you're missing a part of your application. If we're doing, like, we have a virtual open house coming up, you'll get notifications about that. And it's just periodic, just reminders about kind of where you are in the process of applying to UNCW. Okay, so we all stated right when we introduced ourselves that we are the counselors for different regions. So as you can see, I said I'm the South Central. So that baby blue section, that's going to be ours. We break up all 100 counties in North Carolina for different regional counselors. So you can look up your region on the screen and see who your regional counselor is. And on our website, you can find the direct contact information for your direct regional counselor. And we do the exact same thing for our out-of-state. It's just, as you can see, it's just going to be a little bit larger regions. But we do the exact same thing for international students. And if you're one of our homeschool student populations, we definitely have a counselor for you as well. And then, as always, we want you all to stay connected with us. Our job here is to answer any questions that you have, help you through this process. Even if you're like, this is the first time anybody in my family's going to college, I don't know what I'm doing. Can you just help me? I don't even know how to log into Common App. We are here for you. So you can stay connected with any of our social medias, use our hashtags, but the best way to contact us is a direct email. But now we're going to switch it on over to our FAQ. So if you have any questions for us, feel free to put them in the Q&A chat.
Perfect. Thank you, Tish. So as Tish mentioned, there are a lot of great ways right now to be able to connect with us virtually. You can do that through things like virtual tours, webinars, info sessions. But then also, as Tish mentioned, we do welcome the opportunity to hear from you, whether that's through email, phone calls. We also are doing virtual appointments right now with admissions counselors. So if you want to get connected with one of us one-on-one, you can go to our website and access a calendar that will let you schedule an appointment. And those are being done every day, pretty much all day. So we would love that opportunity to connect with you if you have questions. But I'm going to move into the Q&A right now. It does look like we had a couple live questions that are submitted. So once again, if you have a question, feel free to pop that in the Q&A, and we're going to do our best to get through as many questions as possible. I did see one question just wanting to see the admissions counselor slide again. So I'm going to switch back to that one. You can feel free if you want to get out your phone and maybe take a picture of that slide. If you go to our main website, uncw.edu/admissions, from there you'll be able to find a link to our Meet the Team page. So this will give you our name and our area, but if you want our direct email or our direct phone number, all that is available directly on our website. So we did have a question in here about our virtual tour, and specifically, would it be looking at our film studies department? So within our virtual tour, we have a lot of great options right now. We actually have 3 separate tours. So depending on your interest and what you're looking to find out more about, then that'll kind of determine which virtual tour is the best option for you. So the first and most popular is going to be a main campus virtual tour. So this will take you through all of our academic buildings and give you the most and general sense of our campus. You'll pretty much explore everything on campus. We also do have a tour of our residence halls, and that's new within the last year. So if you want to see what a college dorm looks like, or you know, the freshman living options, you can also explore our residence hall to see specifically that. And then the third option, we do have a tour of our Center for Marine Science. So that is our marine biology research facility. And what's cool about that virtual tour is that that building is closed to the public. So you're not able to go on a traditional tour of CMS. So the virtual tour is a really great option to be able to see things that you wouldn't normally be able to see. So we have one question: how many students apply early action? So does anyone want to talk about maybe the difference between the amount of applications that we see early versus regular?
Sure, I can do that. And Tish and Myra, feel free to add anything that you feel fit. We'd say we probably see majority of our applications come in early action. If I had to do it percentage-wise, just off the top of my head, I'd probably say around 70 to 75% of our applications, if not greater, come in early action. So most students do apply then, and we generally would recommend students apply early action unless they fall into a few specific categories, all right? As Tish mentioned, when you apply early action, you do have to submit everything sooner, but you'll receive your decision sooner. And I saw that there was another question in here about, is it possible that you'll receive your decision sooner than January 20th? Yes, it is possible. However, when we send all of our decisions, we send them as kind of one lump sum. We do a deadline-based decision process as opposed to a rolling-based decision process, all right? So typically, at least for the past few years, when students apply early action, we receive their application by November 1. We'll then spend the next month to 6 weeks reviewing those applications and try to have those decisions out by the end of December. So it's possible that you'll get them, you know, very, very late December, early January, or by at least January 20th at the latest, okay? Then at that point, students from early action have the possibility of getting 3 decisions that can either be outright admitted, they can be deferred or denied. But we see most students falling in either to our outright acceptance or our deferred category. All right. And if a student is deferred in early action, their application will be pushed into our regular decision term and they'll be re-reviewed again in February. All right. So that's an advantage of applying early action, is that if by chance we don't find you completely competitive for early action admission, we will defer you and you'll have a second chance to be re-reviewed in our second application term. All right. And with that decision of a deferral, we typically send some recommendation of, hey, we'd like to see an updated transcript, or hey, we'd like to see a letter of recommendation. And we'll give you some very specific feedback on ways that you can improve your application. All right. Generally, the only situations in which we'd tell a student to wait and apply for a regular decision is if they had a rocky end of junior year and their GPA was relatively low at the fall beginning of their senior year. All right. So let's say in a month from now, if you feel that your grades do not accurately reflect you as an academic student, that may be a situation, where we recommend you wait till the spring and apply in regular decision. But for any of those questions, and if you feel like you kind of are in the gray area between those, we'd recommend that you contact your counselor on the screen here, get in touch with them, ask them about your high school, ask them about where you kind of sit currently, and we'll give you very transparent advice on where we think you might be most competitive amongst your application.
Perfect. Thank you, Paul. All right, so we have 3 or 4 questions related to declaring a major or the process to get into a major. So I just want to start by saying that when you apply to UNCW, on the application, there will be a question that asks you, what is your intended major? So with that question, we are not holding you to that major depending on how you answer. To be honest, the majority of applications that we receive, students choose undecided. So that's okay if you are in that boat right now and you have no idea what you want to study in college. We feel like part of our job at UNCW through people like academic advisors is to really help you along in that process, help you figure out what you're good at and what majors might be a good fit for you. So don't worry if you are in that boat. Really with that question on the application, it's just a great way for us to get to know you a little bit more and start to understand why you might be interested in UNCW. So if you're interested in some of our top majors or maybe some programs that are unique to us, that would allow us in starting to understand why UNCW might be a school that you're interested in. In addition to that, if you happen to be in the opposite boat and maybe you already are very confident in what you want to major in or what you want to study, that's fine as well to go ahead and declare that major and let us know. And then really during your first year at UNCW, all of our students are going to be working on what we call university studies courses. Those really are just general courses that, similar to what you do in high school, everyone takes an English course, a math course, a history course. And with that, we really just want to focus on getting you acclimated to different academic areas of UNCW, and then also give you the time and the flexibility to be able to adjust to being in college. So we don't want you to have the pressure of going right into your major. We want to allow you to experience, once again, a lot of the different academic areas that UNCW has to offer, because that's going to be so different than what you were exposed to in high school. Additionally, I did see another question that was similar along the same vein as wondering about majors and the process of declaring a major. That is going to look different for every major on our campus. So right now, UNCW offers nearly 60 different bachelor's degree programs. Some of those majors are going to be competitive and have a certain number of students that they're able to admit. Typically, you would go through that process around your sophomore year at UNCW. Other majors, you just have to have a certain amount of credit hours completed, as well as maintain a certain GPA. So that's something that an academic advisor that you're going to work with during your freshman year specifically is going to help you along in that process. So if you know the path academically that you want to go down, that advisor will be able to work with you, make sure that you're taking all the right classes and doing all the right things to be able to start your major at the time that's going to be best for you. And then once again, just to add, I did see a couple questions that are specific to different majors, maybe acceptance rate or program requirements. The best thing to do for those, well, you have 2 options. Number one, you can email us and we're happy to get you connected to that academic department. We can send you some more information specifically about what admission looks like for that major. Also, you're able to just go to our main website, uncw.edu. You'll see a big button towards the middle that says academics. And then from there, you'll see information for all of our majors. So history and anthropology I see was mentioned. Those are majors at UNCW. You can click on each of those majors individually, and you can see the program requirements to be able to be admitted into that major, as well as the degree requirements of what courses that you would need to take in order to graduate with that degree. I do see a couple questions as well about scholarships, so I'll go ahead and talk just generally about the scholarship process at UNCW. When a student applies to UNCW, we consider them for one merit scholarship that we have here in admissions. That scholarship is called the Distinguished Merit Scholarship, and traditionally it is a $5,000 scholarship that students can renew for their time at UNCW. So you don't have to do anything additional to be considered for that scholarship. I do want to point out, Paul did a great job explaining the test optional policy and what that's going to look like for our admissions purposes. But I do also want to mention that it is possible to be considered for merit scholarships at UNCW without the submission of a test score. So that's a question that you're going to want to ask specifically to each institution that you're interested in. But within the UNC system, that test optional policy is required for admission to UNC system schools. But outside of that, for consideration for things like scholarship, each school is going to manage that process differently. So we can let you know that at UNCW, once again, to be considered for merit scholarships, you do not have to submit a test score for this year only. So once you've been considered for that merit scholarship, typically the way that you would find out is you would receive a letter in the mail if you were awarded that scholarship within maybe 2 to 3 weeks of you receiving your acceptance to UNCW. After that, Tish did a great job of mentioning our scholarship application and the financial aid deadlines, but every year we have a scholarship application that opens on December 1st, and it's open all the way until March 1st. So all admitted students and all current UNCW students have access to this application. And really the way that the process works for financial aid is that right now they manage over 600 different scholarships. About 80 of those right now are designated for incoming first-year students, and they all look at a variety of criteria. So some of them are merit-based, similar to the scholarship that we have at admissions. Others are going to look at maybe your intended major or extracurriculars that you participated in high school, and determine if you qualify for a specific scholarship based on those things. So it's one general pretty long application that you have the option to fill out as much or as little as you want in that application. So you can go through and fill out the sections that are relevant to you. And then as long as you have that submitted by March 1st, you can be considered for scholarship opportunities at UNCW. And once again, this is something that is an application you can fill out every year you're at UNCW. So we always encourage students, if you don't receive the scholarship or financial aid that you hope for your first year, just know that the process does not stop there, that if you're willing to put in the work and fill out that application each year, it is definitely true that you could continue to expand your opportunities for qualifying for certain scholarships. Okay, I do see another question kind of related to what we talked about with test optional. Actually, it might have just gotten answered.
I think I may have just answered that, but I can certainly address it again. A student asked if a student that submits a score would be more likely to be competitive and accepted compared to a student who didn't have a score. And that's not necessarily true. Like we say, a score cannot be used necessarily to hurt an applicant's review process. However, we are hoping that, think of it in the scenario of a student who might, let's say, be on the lower ends of our GPA range. Let's say, within their high school, they're what we typically see on maybe a little bit less competitive student, but they have a really strong SAT score. That would be a student that we say, hey, send that SAT score and it may push you over the edge and make you truly an academic student for early action, a competitive student for early action, excuse me. So that would be a situation that we'd recommend. Again, I know it can be, everyone always asks, well, is there a cutoff? Is there a specific range that you're looking for? It's tricky, and we don't necessarily have a specific cutoff score. So we would encourage you to contact your admissions counselor, but also keep in mind that it cannot negatively affect you. So I would argue that if you've taken the test and you feel like it's a good, at least a solid representation of your academic abilities, I would recommend sending it in because it can only help you in your application review.
Yeah, I also would like to ask, so there's one question asking regarding, is it still early for me? Like this presentation is relevant for me as a freshman or sophomore. It is, because you are ahead of the game. You know, it's never too early, right? So you're looking at your courses that you're taking right now. You know, I always tell students to challenge themselves in the subject that they feel the strongest in, right? So if you're doing great in math and you see yourself, you're taking your basic math, I always challenge you to take honors, right? If your school offers it. Now, if you're doing great in honors, take an AP or do a roommate course. If offered at your school, same thing, right? Involve yourself in extracurricular involvement, right? So that's going to vary depending on the student responsibilities at home as well. So whether it is that you play a sport, you know, you're involved in like SGA or a different student organization, create leadership in there, try to, you know, just bring yourself out as well. Let's say you may have a part-time job, full-time job, maybe you have family responsibilities. All that is really important when you're putting in the application. So just make sure you don't minimize whatever you are doing. The next thing is you can start creating connections with your teachers and your school counselors. So when it is time for you to ask for a letter of recommendation, you are already ahead of the game, right? You're wanting to ask a letter of recommendation or reference to a teacher or a counselor who you think is going to speak highly about you, right? So you want to make sure that you're creating those connections ahead of the game. So if you're sophomore, freshman, this is the perfect time. The next thing would be, is there anything else that we would say it is important that students should be looking at earlier in the game?
Yeah, that's a great question, Myra. I would say, especially when you're a freshman or sophomore, you can already start planning out that rigorous curriculum. You know, a lot of students get to their senior year and they realize, well, I should have took some more AP courses or some honor courses, you know, my junior year. Starting that now, sophomore year, if you feel good about your grades right now and you're like, hey, I'm looking for a little bit more of a challenge, any school you apply for, I'll say that with maybe a little bit of an asterisk, but majority of schools, 99% of schools will always prefer a rigorous curriculum over a non-rigorous curriculum, okay? We'd much rather see a student who has maybe a slightly less competitive GPA. We're still looking for good grades, of course, but slightly less competitive GPA, but has challenged his or herself throughout their 4 years with those rigorous courses, as opposed to a student who might have a 4.0, perfect A's, but hasn't really pushed themselves, okay? So keep in mind when you're a freshman and sophomore, like Myra says, making those connections, finding what classes might be interesting with you with specific professors, but also taking rigorous courses as well, I think is a really good step to take.
And it is also important that you start doing your research about your schools, right? You want to make sure that you're going to a school that offers your career path, making sure that the environment in general, right? So if you're wanting to apply to a school near the beach, right? And you may not love the heat, but you may love the cold and you might love the snow. So just kind of know where you're going to be applying, to make sure that you do campus tours to really kind of feel the space, to see if you know, always tell students to ask themselves a question when you're on campus. Ask yourself, do I see myself here as a student? Just imagine yourself on that skateboard and walking around, you know, coming out of the buildings, out of that classroom. Just imagine yourself there. So it's never too early. A lot of our students really try to cram everything their last 2 years because just in high school, your classes become more rigorous as you go. So make sure you try to, like, you know, if you're a freshman or sophomore, just kind of allow that, like, your summertime to really be to do more of a research about campuses, do campus tours, reach out to admissions counselors to see if you are on the right track.
Perfect, thank you guys. I did see one new question pop up asking if we have any sort of quotas from any specific regions or areas, specifically in North Carolina. We do not. So really every year as we go into our admissions committee, we want to be able to consider every student regardless of just where they live or where they're from. We're looking for applicants that are meeting the criteria that we are asking for in our application. So if you are a competitive applicant, it's not going to make a difference what your zip code is or where you live. You know, we're just looking once again at those application elements and materials. We did have another question about the letters of recommendation. So Paul did a great job explaining this, but the letters of recommendation, typically we prefer those to come from core teachers or school counselors because we feel like those are people that are going to know you well as a student. But some of the best letters of recommendation that I've read have been from people like youth pastors or bosses or coaches. So if you have someone that you feel like can speak to your work ethic and your character and knows you well, that's really what we're looking for. So if you don't have a strong relationship with your school counselor, don't ask your school counselor because we really want it to be from someone that knows you well. So the next thing, we did have a couple questions just about maybe the reasons why a student would choose to attend UNCW or some of the things students can get involved in on campus, such as traditions or things to do on the weekend. So maybe in these last couple minutes that we have, if Tish, Myra, and Paul, maybe you each can talk about one of your favorite things about UNCW, whether that's a tradition or maybe one of the reasons that you chose to attend UNCW.
Yeah, I would love to take this one to start us off is come to UNCW because you want a family feel. I was not expecting college to have as much like UNCW in general to have as much connections, which like Paul said earlier, I'm an alum, about to be a double alum. So I was always told by my high school teachers that high school, your professors don't have time for you. You're only going to take 2 tests and that'll determine your final grade. And all you got to do is study all day. That is not at all what it's like being a student at UNCW. There is such of a community. Like my professors would check in with my other professors to make sure, did I do good on a test? They would make sure that I was studying. They would give me, if I was struggling on a topic, they would email me different extra supplemental readings that I can do to get an understanding better. They would invite me to their office hours with my friends and connecting with them and being able to do study groups and be able to also not just study, go to the beach and just relax if I want to do that. So just being in such a supportive environment is, I'd say, the best reason to come to UNCW.
Yeah, and I would go with that as well. I'm myself in the local, but I would say Wilmington has a good variety. You may want to come near the beach. I would say I was a beach by myself, but Wilmington has the downtown area where if you want to have, now with COVID, everything has restrictions, but regardless, we do have, the park concerts where students are, anybody in general are able to go there and listen to live music, be by the pier, river walk. So there's a lot of variety you can do. We have a lot of mini parks that we have, so there's a good variety. For me, I stayed here just because there is that sense of family. It's not too big, nor is it too small. So it's just kind of like the perfect size. So that's the reason I had came here, and it's easier when you're walking down Chancellor's Walk or around UNCW, you're able to recognize the face. So it's just the perfect size, and definitely there's a variety of activities you can do outside of UNCW. But UNCW itself offers students, they'll have something like UNCW weekends or UNC weekends where students can just kind of get updates where, okay, this weekend we're going to go skating at the ice rink. So all students go. They will sometimes may take a shuttle, or they'll kind of do a car ride where they just jump together in the car and then they'll go ice skating. So it's kind of nice because it's kind of a social media platform where students are informed of activities. So we always say there's not an excuse to kind of get yourself become more social. So if you can start creating friends within different clubs, organizations, or just programming that UNCW offers.
Yeah, their answers are awesome. And I think the community is a huge reason why a lot of people choose UNCW, for sure. To give a slightly different answer just for the sake of different answers, I chose UNCW a lot for the academic ability and the academic opportunities that I had here. As part of the Honors College when I was a student here, I had access to undergraduate research for 2.5 years and internships throughout the state of North Carolina. UNCW, with us being such an undergraduate focused institution, our resources and as Myra kind of focused on, the professors are devoted to our undergraduate students. All right, we're not necessarily a huge graduate institution. So, opportunities for that are catered towards our undergraduate students, and you're able to build resumes and professional experiences that are comparable and competitive with many other students from graduate programs at other universities. So that really was a huge sell for me. And it's not just for, specific majors here at UNCW, it's across the board. And that's what's really, really important as well. But I know we're pushing our time here. So I want to turn it back over to Allison if we have any last minute questions or anything like that.
Sure. So we had a couple more pop up, and I've been trying to chat them and answer those back. But just in case we do run out of time, you can always feel free to just email our general email address. It's admissions with an S on the end at uncw.edu. So if you can't find the contact for your counselor or need help getting connected, we can definitely help you do that. And then once again, if you want to sign up for our virtual appointments with admissions counselors or any upcoming webinars, feel free to email us. And once again, we just thank you all so much for attending this morning. And we're excited that you're interested in UNCW.
All right. Thanks again for all that great information from the team from UNC Wilmington. Thank you all for joining us. A full transcript of the questions and answers will be provided to the panelists. So if they didn't get a chance to get to your questions, just know that they will get a transcript, and they'll have your information to where they can reach out to you. Once you click out of this, exit out of this window, you'll receive a short link to a 4-question survey. We appreciate any feedback that you can share with us. Just a quick reminder that this is just one of many sessions that will be going on for the next several weeks. You can view the full schedule at CACRAO.org. That's CACRAO.org. In about a week's time, this session's recording will also be made available to view on demand, as well as all other information sessions and panels. You can visit and view those at the same website, CACRAO.org. We appreciate you all joining us again today, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.